All right, guys, welcome back to Famous DJ Academy. Today, what I'm going to talk to you guys about is the business essentials of being a DJ, being a successful business owner, and operating fully with like a fictional business name, having insurance, running contracts, meeting with clients, and all that good stuff. I think it's very important to do this kind of stuff because, for one, you know, your business is just going to come off way more professional, because it is, you're taking it seriously, and you're doing everything the right way, through the government and stuff. And two, it's like it protects you from any kind of lawsuits or anything, or like your equipment being damaged or anything like that at all. So, um, when you're taking your first steps to starting your DJ business, what you need to do, I would say, is first of all start like your DBA, which stands for doing business as. And what that means is you're telling the government that you're going to be operating and functioning um, under a different name, and that name can be basically anything you want as long as it's not taken already. So what you can do is call it your DJ name, or you call it like your DJ name entertainment, something like that. Could be like DJ Cato Entertainment, DJ Cato Events, or just DJ Cato, anything like that. Um, so what that does, it's letting the government know that you're going to be basically charging people under that name and all that good stuff, right? Um, when you file your DBA, you have the option to select whether you're going to be operating this business by yourself, or if you're going to be operating this business um, with others. So if you're doing it by yourself, which is typically what DJs do, it's usually a one man thing. Not counting, like, you don't need to consider the people that you pay, because those are the people that are going to be either your employees or like your independent contractors. So those aren't included. I'm talking about like somebody that's going to be a part owner of the business with you. Typically, like I said, it's by yourself. So what you would file it as is for sole proprietorship, sole proprietor. And that means you're the sole owner of this business. The other options are like LLC. You can incorporate and stuff like that. That's when you can actually make your business and a corporation, even if you're just operating by yourself, which is kind of a good thing to do as well. It's just, I think, like a little more expensive, and just there's a lot more that goes behind it, because what you're doing when you incorporate is you're taking your business and you're making it its own entity in the government's eyes. Um, when you're a sole prop, it's basically telling the government, hey, this is me, say John Smith, and I am operating this business as my, like me, under a different name, right? But it's still you. So it's still attached to you. Now, when you incorporate, it's like you take your business and you turn it into another person. It like has like its own tax ID and stuff. And so the benefit with that, for example, is if say somebody um I don't know what wants to sue you for whatever reason. Say your speaker falls on somebody, and then they're filing a big lawsuit on you. What could happen, and saying you don't have the money to pay for that lawsuit, they'll shut down your business, right? And if you're a sole prop, well, no, if you're incorporated, they would only be able to attack or go after your business and not you personally. Now, if you're a sole prop, since you're still tied in with your business, they can go after your own personal assets. So, when you buy a house or you buy a car or something like that, they put it under your name. Well, if you get sued or something like that, then they can kind of come after those properties and stuff of yours. You know what I mean? So, it's good, it's smart to incorporate. There's just a longer process, but definitely would recommend it. But running as a sole prop is fine. If you're doing sole prop, then this is where we get into the discussion of insurance. I mean, regardless if you're sole prop or incorporated or anything like that, is you still should have insurance. But I would say if you're running sole prop, you should 100% get insurance. And what insurance does, as far as like in terms of a DJ, this is what you would need to protect mainly. It's your equipment and any accidents that may happen when you're on a job. So the types of insurances that there are for DJs, you just would have to look online. They're usually like kind of subcontracted through bigger insurance companies. Um, but they usually run like about 150 to $250 a year. So it's not bad. And it's pretty good to protect yourself and your equipment. Um, and what this insurance usually does is you'll have like a $2 million liability. Say if somebody gets injured and they have to go to the hospital and get some kind of surgery, they're going to cover you for costs up to $2 million, which is really good. Usually I don't think anybody would need hospital bills that are be more than 2 million. You know what I mean? Um, and the other thing that it would cover would be your equipment, whether it gets damaged by a guest at one of the parties that you're DJing at, or if it gets stolen, which is something that I've experienced too. And having that insurance to like back you up is really helpful, because all you do is you prove that stuff was stolen, whether there's a camera or, say somebody broke in, you take pictures of the forced entry and stuff like that. And then you take pictures, you file an insurance claim. The insurance will determine how much value those items were, and then if you have a deductible, they'll take that away, and then they give you that money back, and then you can go ahead and go and buy your stuff again. Now, the important thing to remember is that you need to get insurance for your business, like your sole prop. You know what I mean? Because if you get insurance personally, like on your own personal stuff, the insurance company, if say something gets stolen, they're gonna investigate you and see if you whether you were using this equipment for business or for personal use. And if you were doing a gig, you were doing it for business, right? But then that changes like the way they file the whole claim, and they won't give you as much money. But if you have insurance on your business saying, hey, I was using this equipment to operate my business to make money, then you're still covered, because your business is insured, not you personally. So that's just something to keep in mind, because I know a lot of people sometimes they'll rely on renters insurance, or like like not homeowners insurance, but just renters insurance. So if your stuff gets stolen at home, then it'll work. But say you usually have your stuff out. You're out on the road. So your car could get broken into. Somebody can just reach into your car and grab something, maybe while you're loading or something like that, and you just want to make sure you're covered. Another thing is all the equipment that you're buying and maybe leaving at other places too. You know what I mean? If say something breaks, say a guest tips over your speaker because they're drunk or something like that, you're gonna have damage. And what you do is you just file a claim, report what was the price and damage, and then your insurance will help you out there. You know what I mean? So that's insurance. Um, I really recommend to get it. It's not that expensive, honestly. $200, you pay it off with a gig. You know what I mean? You do one gig, pay off your insurance, and you're all good for the entire year. I mean, I'm sure you probably even get more for a gig. You know what I mean? So it's partially. Now, the other part of professionalism. Now that we talked about protecting yourself and setting yourself up properly. Um, Now, when you're operating with a client, what I feel is really helpful is to have that professionalism, so that way when you're working with people, like they understand your rates, and they can see like, okay, well, he's charging this much because he's professional, he knows what he's doing, and it's all legit. People like that like feeling of security and stuff. And personally, I think like I always keep this in mind, that a peace of mind goes a long way. Like sometimes it's worth it to spend a little bit more just to know that you're working with a company that's legit, that's insured, and you're not going to have issues with. Um, and the main thing that can like define that thing in a company is working with contracts and deposits and company policies and stuff like that. So when you're signing a contract with a client, obviously you need to get like your main basics down, right? You need to get, the name of who is hiring you. Um, you can get their address, that's you don't need to, but you can get their address just for, say something does happen at the party and you need to like send them an invoice or send them some kind of claim or something like that. You can just know where to mail it to. But sometimes they're having their events at a venue or something like that. So the address from their personal address and their event address is going to be different. But you also want to include the event address in the contract. That way, if you ever go to court or anything like that, they know where this event happened. Also, you want to include your hours and the duration and how long you're going to be there. Say you're contracted from 6 to 10. Okay, put it in the contract that you're contracted to DJ from 6 to 10, and then also include the time that you want to arrive by. Um, Typically, it'd be like an hour, maybe two, ahead of time. So you would put arrival time 4 p.m., start time 6 p.m., end time 10 p.m. Now, what you also want to include is the price it would be if they asked you to stay more time. You want to include that in the contract. That way, you're not really like haggling at the party and it's kind of an awkward conversation sometimes. So, if you make it known to them when you're signing the contract, hey, if you want to keep me for an extra hour or two, it'd be $100 an hour, $50, whatever whatever your rate is. This way, it's just laid out, and then that if they say you get paid for your contracted time, but then in the contract you don't have like how much you would charge for staying later, they could for whatever reason not pay you, and then you have no proof of what they would owe you, right? So make sure you include that. You also want to include what you're going to be providing. What are you going to be bringing? Are you bringing one speaker, two speakers? This is all just for security so that there's 100% transparency with you and your client. There's been situations where, somebody is expecting like a whole concert audio type setup, but that's not what they booked for. But just because they heard professional grade audio, they thought, oh, I'm going to get, whatever in their mind they thought professional grade audio was, but it could be a misunderstanding. So include, the equipment, I'm bringing 2 power speakers. I'm bringing 6 up lights, a DJ system, which would be like your turntables and your mixer, and all that good stuff. I also include sometimes like, hey, we have like what we include one event consultation, just because I've run into clients where, they're wanting to meet with you all the time, and that's, your time is money. So if you're having to spend 2-3 hours to go and drive somewhere and meet with them, and then another 2-3 hours on another day to go and meet with them again, and then another 2-3 hours to meet with them again because the bride's indecisive or something like that, that's all time and stuff. So what I include in my contract is, okay, you get one event consultation, one venue walkthrough, and then the event. You know what I mean? So that way, to me, that's all you would really need. If they want to schedule additional meetings, then you can include that as well. Just like if they were to want additional hours. Now you also in your contract want to include, I think, just the option to pay via credit card or something like that. They can fill it out. Oh yeah, and anything that you need to request as a DJ. Say you need an electrical outlet, right? So just throw that in there. Hey, I need a nearby electrical outlet. Um, I need a table or anything that you would like to be provided. Or sometimes if you're DJing somewhere far away, say if it's like 100 miles away, and you're going to be finishing at midnight, 1 a.m., and then you have to pack up, and then you have to drive all the way back home. Sometimes that's not safe. You've been working all day. So if the event that you're doing is a certain distance away, then include, like, hey, if this is in 100 miles away from where I'm located, then I need a hotel room included, or a meal included, something like that. um you also want to throw in your policies that, if, say like there's a thunderstorm, something like that, and it's not allowing you to play, that's not your fault, and that you need to consider the safety of your equipment, and that you'll do whatever in your power to still perform. And that's why it's good to bring little backup systems, like, say, like bring an iPod, or I mean an iPad or something like that, so that you can just plug in and play music, and you just set up your speaker. But say it's raining and you can't set up your turntables because they're going to get all wet, well, at least you brought something to play some kind of music, you know what I mean? But so, stuff like weather, or usually what they call them are acts of God, stuff that's out of your control. You want to throw that in there and just protect yourself, because you don't know what's going to happen, and then you don't want to end up like getting sued for not being able to perform what you were supposed to perform, and it's not even your fault. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you throw all that in there, and just be thorough. You know what I mean? Just and then make sure they read them, and make sure you add like little spaces for them to initial, say like, hey, I understand this. I understand. Okay, I get it. That way there's no confusion and stuff. And if it does come up later, you show them your contract, your policies, and you say, hey, like, we went over this. You signed, you told me you understood. It's right here, it's written in paper, and we both signed this. Um Other than that, to always just be respectful and professional. And at the end of the day, you're an entertainer. You're being hired to be an entertainer for their event. So keep that in mind. Unless you're getting hired to do your own thing, then okay, cool. Go and do your own thing. But I always like to keep in mind that you're getting hired to perform at somebody's like biggest day. Some DJs, we work every weekend, and we do a wedding, a quince. You know what I mean? We do this all the time. So sometimes it becomes a little kind of numb for us. But just keep in mind that that one day is like that couple's, like, it could be a bride's biggest day of her life. Honestly, like, weddings, like, girls dream of this. So you want to make their dreams come true, um, especially if you're getting hired. So always be respectful, always be presentable, and be professional. Um, the last thing I'll go over that's good to just having your business, we're just gonna hop back into the business essential stuff, is setting up like a business bank account. The reason why you want to do this is because, for the most part, you want your write-offs. You know what I mean? You want to write off the gas that you use to drive to this event. You want to write off the cables that you buy to perform your activities as a business. Anything like that, it's all deductible. It's an expense. So you need to let the government know that you have costs to operate this business. Um, so that not ever all the money that's coming in is 100% profit. That way, so say you made $20,000 in a year, but you spent $10,000 buying your turntables, buying speakers. Say you even bought like a car to transport your stuff. Um, you let them know, like, hey, I'm using this stuff to operate my business. So I didn't make $20,000. I actually only made 10,000, and that just helps you out in your taxes and stuff. So now with that, the government will only know what your expenses are if you let them know what it is. So you need to keep track. And the only way you keep track, or you can prove this kind of stuff, if, say, you get looked into by the IRS, is if you have proof, which are receipts. So I think it's really a good idea to open up a business bank account, and then open up a credit card with that. That's kind of the way I go about it. So now any business expense that I do, say I'm buying music or buying vinyls, needles, cables, speaker, anything for my business, I charge it on this bank account, on this credit card, and then my bank at the end of the year will send me a full statement of what I spent and stuff, and then that is what I turn into my tax preparer, and then they include that accordingly. I don't know how they do it with taxes, but they know what's up. So yeah, business bank account, business credit card. If you're doing any cash purchases, keep receipts. Just get a box and just throw them in there and label it year 2020 receipts, something like that. I'm personally not that great at taking care of stuff like that, so that's why I just keep it all digital on the credit card, stuff like that. Yeah, other than that, like business essentials, it's always good to network. Be humble, be good to people. I think it goes a long way when you're a good person. When you just be cool, don't get upset if something's going wrong at an event. If anything, you should be the one that's the most knowledgeable to like know how to handle situations. um and you want to network and stuff because these peers that are in the same industry will help you out. They'll refer you too. So yeah, that's it for business essentials, at least part one, if anything. But I think getting those things set up as a DJ, legit, will really help out, and it'll help you have just a longer career and keep you going. Cool. All right.